Exercise 1, Inventor 2026. In this exercise, we're going to take a look at the foundations of Inventor, which is a 3D parametric CAD software package. What you see here is actually the interface as well as the model we're going to create. And so we're going to learn how to first build these rectangles or these platforms for the stairs. And with that, we're going to have to create sketches. It's going to be 3 by 5. We're going to then learn how to put a hole in it. And then we're going to take a look at these. These are fillets. We're going to learn how to put fillets in, as well as chamfers, which are angles. So we'll top it off with the backside, which is essentially shelled out like that. So it's kind of like an enclosure that we're building. Let's begin. Go up to the upper left corner, go to New, select Standard Eye Part, hit Create. And on the left-hand side, this is our parts browser. And essentially, it gives us a roadmap of everything we're going to do, and it enables us to change things pretty easily just by right-clicking on them and editing them. Over on the left, you'll see this origin folder. If you hit the little plus symbol to the left of that, you'll see 3 planes. You have your front, top, and right plane. These are your paper that you're going to sketch on, or at least you begin to sketch on until we start having flat surfaces of the part that we can sketch on those as well. And we could create new planes too at any angle. So let's begin with the XY plane. Go ahead and click on that. And when you select it, you'll see what appears. There's actually a little plus symbol over here. We could click on that. That's Create Sketch. Or you could go up here to Start 2D Sketch. Either one, it's basically the same tool. So once you select that, now you have the crosshairs. And in the center of the crosshairs, that's our 0, 0, 0 for X, Y, and Z. And that point can be deleted, so be careful when you're selecting things and hitting the delete key. You don't want to delete that usually. Anyways, go to Rectangle in the upper left. If you hit the little arrow to underneath it, you'll see all the different tools. Like, look at that polygon is at the bottom. That's really nice for making like nuts or bolts and things like that. There's slots, there's center rectangles and things like that. We're going to go with the basic 2-point rectangle. Now there is the line tool, and you'll learn how to use the line, believe me, but the rectangle tool is much easier. Let's get started. Click on rectangle. Hover over the origin. Now the origin makes a great anchor point for you. It doesn't move. Like I said, you could accidentally delete it, but typically you don't move it in this software. But go ahead and click on that point when it turns green. Now, those of you who might have an earlier version of Inventor, your background might be gray. And we're going to go through how to change some of the colors and such like that in just a little bit. But go ahead and click on this origin. Move your pointer to the upper right, and you'll see some dimensions appear. Like for the width of the part, like mine is like around a 1/2 inch or so. We actually want that to be 3 inches. So instead of clicking in there and typing in a value, literally notice it's blue. That means it's highlighted, ready for you to add one. Type in 3. You don't have to type in 3.00 if it's just zeros, or even the point for that matter. Now, to get the next one, we want that one to be 5 inches. So hit the Tab key in the upper left corner of your keyboard, Tab. Hit it once. And look at that. Now you could type in 5 and hit Enter. Now it seems to zoom out of the screen, or it's out of the screen as it enlarged. Now what you can do on your keyboard, find the Home button. Like mine is up here on the keyboard. Some of you have it over here. But find Home, and you could click on Home at any time, and it's like a zoom to fit. There's other ones up here that we're going to take care with. You could also click on Front, and that will take you to the same view perspective. Okay, so now that we have that, you can see the dimensions there, the 5 inch and the 3 inch. You could double click on those and change them if you wanted to at any time during the modeling process. Let's now go to 3D Model, up here, the tab, and go to Extrude. Now, right now we're not seeing much, the way it zoomed up to this, so go over here to this front view block. Find the Home button there. Now that Home button is a little different than the Home button on your keyboard. This brings you into an isometric view like you see here, which is really nice, and it zooms to fit to the screen. So it could really help you out. It'll be one of your best friends actually as you model parts. Now we see here we could type in a new value up there. This actually needs to be a 1/2 inch or 0.5 inches. You could also conceptualize using the arrow button. If you click, now when I say click, that's the button on the left on your mouse. And that's what we're going to use most of the time. Maybe 10% of the time, we will right click, and I'll be sure to say it twice. I'll say right click, so you know to use the other mouse button. But for right now, I just want you to click on this and then move your pointer backwards and forwards, and you can see how you could conceptualize this way. Get it to 0.500-ish if you can. If not, you could release it at any point and type it in manually. You could also type it in over here on the left. And there's even a flip switch, so you could have it extrude out the back if you wanted to, which we don't want to here. Go ahead and hit OK. Now that we have a solid model up on the screen, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to rotate. Now, this little box over here, if you click on it, allows you to go to front. You could click on these little arrows, go to right, top. You could even click on these. These are clockwise and counterclockwise rotation tools. And then you could go back to the home. You also have the ability to click on the corners. So if I wanted the bottom corner here, I could click on that. Or if I wanted this one over here, I could click on that. Okay, I'm going to go back home though. There are these buttons too that enable you to zoom to fit, to orbit or rotate, whatever you want to call it, and things like that. So feel free to tinker with these as you go along. But now that you've seen how to rotate that way, here's probably my favorite way to rotate. On your mouse, you usually have a wheel. Now, if you use the wheel, like focus, let's say we want to focus this upper corner. Get your pointer over it and then scroll the wheel towards you and keep the pointer focused there, and you'll see it will continue to zoom up where you're pointing. Now, go ahead and hit your home button again on your keyboard or the home button up here. Either one is fine. Now I want to show you how to dynamically rotate, or as the software calls it, orbit. Hold Shift on your keyboard, the Shift button, and now move your pointer to the center and use that wheel not to scroll. Push it down like it's a button and hold it. Now move your mouse left, right, up, and down. And it says pivot here, or orbit if you want to call it that, or I call it dynamic rotation. So there are many ways, as you can see there, to rotate and orient the way you want. Ultimately, let's go back to isometric here. Click on the home button up in the upper right corner of the screen. Okay, we're going to now put another step on this. Go ahead and select the surface. Now, instead of selecting those planes, by the way, those planes, even though they had a border around it, it's not any sort of boundary. It's just so visually you could see where you are in relation to other objects and things like that. So they're really, as far as I know, infinite pretty much. Go ahead and select this face. Now you'll see if you let it sit over something too long, it'll actually bring up a little dialog box. It's just to help you out. You could click on that. Now there's different options here. The first one is Edit Extrude. We don't want that one. Okay, so don't click yet. That would be to edit that 1/2 inch thickness. So if you want to change it to 1 inch, you could change it through there. Edit Sketch brings up the sketch that's located inside there that we drew, the rectangle that's 3 by 5. It allows you to change those dimensions. Share Sketch is just a copy of the sketch, basically. Make Sketch visible. It keeps it on. Notice how it disappears when we click somewhere else. This will turn it on and leave it on. So if you want that on, it's there. Finally, there's Create Sketch. This is the one we want, the little green plus symbol. So you could go ahead and click on that. But one last one just to show you is Create Finish. That's for colors and things like that. We're not interested in that just yet, but I'll show you that near the end of the video. Go ahead and select Create Sketch, the little green plus. Now go to Rectangle again. Hover over that point in the lower left corner. When it turns green, again, your colors might be different if you're on a different release or you set it up differently. But the green dot, click, then move your pointer to the right here and let it kind of, looks like it snaps almost without clicking. It snaps to the right edge, and sure enough, look at the dimension in the center. It's 3 inches. That's the same width. If you wanted to follow that width, just leave it there and hit Tab on your keyboard again. Now this one, we actually want to have it at 1.5 inches. So type in 1.5 and hit Enter. And now you could click on the isometric, as I call it, which is the home button up here. Let's go to 3D Model, Extrude, and it remembers the last dimension we had in there and it reuses it If you want to change it, you can, but in this case, we want it to be 0.5. So just over here in the upper left in this properties dialog, hit OK, and it will already it'll merge the two. There's an option to not merge them, but we actually want them merged, or Boolean as they call it. Okay, let's cut a hole in this. Select this face and go to the little green plus symbol, create sketch. And we need to see the whole thing, so either hit home on your keyboard or the front button here. Okay, go to the circle tool, hover in this upper left quadrant of the block, because that's around about where we want it. Like X should be around 1 inch, Y should be around 4 inches, give or take. Click. As you move this out, we see the diameter appear. You want it to be 0.75, so go ahead and type that in and hit Tab, or you could just hit Enter actually, and there it is. Now to position it, we're going to use the dimension tool that's up here. So see dimension? You could also use the fast key, which is just D, but go to dimension. Now select this point, and now many of you have already gone through the segments of where we hand sketched this. We talked about extension lines and dimensions and such like that. Use that same philosophy when laying this out. So click on the point and then the left edge. Move your pointer straight up and get the dimensions centered between the arrows. Click and type in 1 and hit Enter. And again, we're using the same ideals that we just learned earlier when we created the hand sketch of this, or what I call the napkin sketch. You want to lay it out so it's easy to read, easy to access. So if someone else has to edit this, or you yourself, maybe a year down the road or tomorrow, you can just see it easily and double click on it. Okay, let's continue. Center point again, click on it because we're still in the dimension tool. Select the top edge, move to the left here. Now, just like I talked about in that video, don't dimension like on the part. Try and get it off of there if you can. And make sure it's centered so it's easy to read and it looks clean. Click, type in 1, hit Enter, or the green check mark, either one. So there we have it now, it's positioned. Notice with my colors that I have pre-selected here, it turns white, the geometry. White means, as you can see here, fully constrained. That's your goal. Inventor doesn't force you to constrain the objects with those dimensions, but especially for conceptualization, that's very useful. But ultimately, before it goes into production, make sure you get your things fully constrained, because that means you've positioned it with dimensions. There's no just things floating around where they shouldn't be. I'm going to hit Escape now on the keyboard. The Escape button gets you out of the dimension tool. Now move over here to this 0.75 dimension, and let's move that out, make that a little tidier. I'm going to put it right up there. Okay. You could even move it up further if you like. Let's get it up there. Okay, and you want to have your dimensions located close in proximity, but not overlapping each other, just so you're not reading way off to the left-hand side what the dimension is, unless you have no other option. Okay, now we go to 3D Model, Extrude. Now you can see here it's going to add material by default, but you could grab that little arrowhead and click on it and drag it backwards, or you could go over here to the left under the properties and the behavior. There's the flipped right here. And notice when it flips, it automatically changed the Boolean output to cut. So it knows there's a little AI going on in there. And it's like, oh, there's a solid behind it. Really, our best option here is probably to remove that. That's the intent of the author. So anyways, let's leave it at cut. Now there's another step here or segment, and this is cross-platform with any CAD system. Something called design intent. Design intent is your plan on how you would like this to update to where it's beneficial and easy. So for example, right now it's set to 0.5 for this hole. Now change occurs all the time in design. Someone might find, oh, 0.5 for that plate is too thin. Let's make it 1 inch. They go ahead and they change the thickness of the plate, but your dimension, they miss it. It still looks like the hole's there when they look at it from an isometric view, but they didn't look through it to the top and all of a sudden, or the front, and all of a sudden part gets made, maybe millions of parts get made, and then they realize when they try and put a bolt through it, oh wait, this isn't the through hole, what happened? Design intent is to kind of plant a seed. I don't expect you to think about this too much for this class, but in your future, as you become a designer on a regular basis, think about these things. In that case, 0.5, there might be a better option. If we know a bolt is always going to fit through it to fasten itself something else, this little tool over here under Properties and Behavior, Through All, click on that. That will ensure no matter what plate thickness you have, that is always going to be cut through. So that is just a simple example of what they call design intent. All right, and again, don't worry too much about it. It'll slow you down if you think too much about it, but there we go. Hit OK. Now, this is essentially the end of this lesson for those of you who are taking my course. You could go ahead and you could either save this as a PDF, like by going to File, and you'll find Export and PDF. And you could just output that and submit it in Blackboard under the E1 assignment. However, if you'd like to stay with me, I'm going to show you just an additional 5 minutes of added value. Like, how did I get that part where it looked like shiny metal or chrome and dress it up a bit more? We will learn it in the future, but some of you who have like artistic abilities might really enjoy this segment. So stay tuned if you like. Otherwise, those of you can save it off as a PDF and submit it. Another little cool trick here is to do a Windows, hit your Windows key on your keyboard, Shift and S as in Sam. And that will bring up a gray screen. Let's see if I can do it here. Windows, Shift, S. Oh, actually, that did something a little different. Brought up all the things there. Anyways, you could click and drag a fence to surround your geometry. And down here in the lower right, if you have Windows 11, it will pop up. And it allows you to save it as a JPEG, bitmap, PNG. And you could submit those. Those are even better. So to submit for a grade. Don't submit, by the way, those of you in my class, don't submit a 3D model unless you have questions on it. Because in Blackboard or D2L, whichever one you're using, essentially, I can't grade it easily in there. I have to save it to my computer, bring it up in the software, write on a separate sheet of paper or on screen what was wrong with it, and then reinsert it. It's a lot easier with a PDF file just to mark it up in the Blackboard system. Okay, so that's why. All right, and also try and give me an isometric most of the time. So if you hit the home button, most of those views are the best. But sometimes like a front view of a drawing is what I want, because we will be doing drawings, or the most descriptive view. If there's details on the inside and I need to see it exploded, be sure to give me that view. Okay, anyways, for those of you who want to hang on, here we go. All right, so we want to add some 3D model features on here. The Fillet tool, one of the easiest tools to tinker with, at least to start with, click on Fillet. It adds a radius, and let's go ahead and we'll leave it at 0.125, which is my default. Click on this edge when it turns green. And now click on that and drag it in, and you see you could actually get it to 1 inch specifically. You could click on this edge. And so for conceptualization purposes, great tool to make a cool looking part. Now leave it just with those two for right now, those of you in this class. Hit OK. Now go to chamfer. And with chamfer, if you click on edges here, or actually keep it at 0.125, select this edge here and this edge here. And notice it follows where the radius is. That's the tangent propagation that's automatic in there. You can deactivate that if you want, but notice it stops at the hard edges where there's a sharp edge. Go ahead and hit OK. And now let's go ahead and rotate this. So you could click on this bottom corner here and then the next bottom corner. And that gives you a perfect view that we want to get. Or you could just rotate it with you remember what key do you need to hold down and what mouse button? Shift and the middle wheel to rotate. Anyways, okay, so let's go ahead and go to shell. And the shell is set to 0.1. That's perfect, actually. Go ahead. You see, if I don't click on a face, it's showing a preview. It's all hollowed out on the inside, but we want to open up some faces. So you click on the faces you want to open or expose. So click here and here. and here. And that's it. Don't go too far on that. Hit OK, and now you have it shelled out. So you've made a relatively complex part very quickly. We're only 20 minutes into this. Okay, now as I promised you, I want to show you these settings too. Those of you who tuned out earlier, unfortunately, you missed the settings, but you'll see them in future videos if you're only now watching this. The settings, if you go to File and Options, here you'll see all sorts of different settings for pretty much anything you could think of in the software. But if you go to Display, there's some nice settings up in here that you could, like for example, appearance, you could use each individual's document setting or application, whatever you set as a global setting. Everything from here on out will be affected. You could go to settings here and you could have shaded with edges like I do. The edges of the part have them be black or whatever color you choose. If you have ray tracing, this is phenomenal. Some graphics cards, especially professional graphics cards, and a lot of the new graphics cards actually have ray tracing. Like this is an example of the AMD Radeon Pro W6400. It's a great little graphics card, low power. I actually have its little twin sister in the computer here. And basically that has ray tracing, and that speeds things up, makes the part look pretty sharp. So if you have that, you can turn that on. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. Let's go to hardware. You can set it to performance or quality or conservative. If you have like an older laptop or tablet that you're working on, set it to software graphics. That might be better. If you ever get any glitches, that will help prevent glitches with the software. Okay, and then colors. Like look at this. You have, right, I have it set to dark, the user interface theme. But you could set it to high contrast or presentation. I used to like to use presentation. Many of my videos that you're going to see, like exercise 2, 3, 4, 5, are done in presentation just because it's brighter, a little bit easier to see with on a big screen. Anyways, I'm going to go back to dark. I kind of like the dark. And then when you change these, be aware like the border colors and things like that all change. So when I have a video done in a different color, just be aware like, oh, that's a different color. When he says a green dot, mine's orange. So just know that that's kind of the case. You can also set the background image to one color, gradient, or literally a background image. Okay, so there's the settings. Now let's color this. Up here you have this generic. Now these materials, what they're for are for analysis purposes. Also, it does actually give it an appearance that's pretty close to how it would look in reality. It's nice, but if you have more of an artistic flair, use the default tab up there. This actually, though, we will do an analysis. I believe it's exercise 9. Exercise 7, where we do finite element analysis, and these actually have that information, and they're like the yield strength, the tensile strength, the thermal properties, and things like that. Okay, but we'll go over here to default. Now, without anything selected on the part, watch this. You could go over here and you could find all types of materials. I'm going to go to the chrome. These are alphabetic and chrome polished. And you see it adapts and gives it a nice look. Now, go ahead and select the chamfer over here in the what I call the feature tree or browser, and then hold Control and select this surface of this hole. And we can now go up here where it says Chrome, and let's go with polished blue, or try any of the colors. It doesn't matter to me. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. And look at that. It changes it. So you could select those from the faces or the individual features and have all those colors be effective there. Now, if we want to make it look even nicer, go to View, and you'll see you have the color scheme. There's dark, there's forest, there's all sorts of neat things. I'm going to stick with dark for right now. Visual style, go with realistic, and turn on shadows, reflections. The ground plane's a little, it puts on that grid down below there. You can turn it on if you like. Orthographic, change it to perspective. This gives you the vanishing point, like how when you look at a room from the back, it looks smaller at the end. So from the back side. So That's a nice enhancement that gives it that realistic look. Now, it's not quite there yet, but it's looking pretty decent. Here, the ray tracing. If you select this in the lower right here, if you had a GPU that could support it, it'll say GPU. If you didn't have a GPU that supports the ray tracing, or if you didn't turn it on, you'll see CPU. It actually uses your central processing unit to render instead of the GPU. The GPU is more powerful typically. The card I have in here is a budget card. It only has like 2 gigabytes of RAM, so it's taking a bit longer to render, but already it's looking pretty darn good. So be aware that that's a nice feature, and you can always pause it. You can set it higher or set it to draft. If you hit pause here, now if you want to capture that image and submit that, that's perfectly all right. So the Windows Shift S, oh, here we go now. I must have hit the wrong key before. You get this where you could just click and drag a fence to surround what you want. And over here, the snipping tool appears. You could click on it. You can mark it up. You could share it, save it as a PNG, JPEG, bitmap, I believe. And it's really nice. And you could just submit those. And those end up being on your hard drive under the pictures area. So you'll see snapshots or something like that. And you could submit that. These are going to make a fantastic portfolio for you. Have fun with it. Enjoy the software. This concludes this exercise. And now, those of you in my class, there's Lab 1 and Lab 1B that you could watch or actually complete that are in your training guide. I don't have the page numbers up right now, but you could see it on Blackboard. And continue and go ahead and do those and submit those too. Well, I hope you enjoyed this lesson and look forward to seeing you in lesson exercise, or I should say exercise 2.